Hey, it's Huck. And hey, forgive me for wearing this. You know, I have good days and I have bad days with my breathing. Today's been kind of an in-betweener day, but kind of more on the bad side for some reason. It's been real hot and humid. We had a thunderstorm again. I think this is like the 5th or 6th day this week that we've had, torrential rains at least through some portion of the day. And I have a feeling that kind of makes my breathing act up. Anyway, I'm fine. I'm supposed to go back to work tomorrow at long last, and we'll see if that transpires. But at any rate, I had intended that my next video was going to be about the King versus Burwell case, something that I've long been wanting to, comment upon. Of course, the Supreme Court is scheduled to release their ruling on that case any day now. In fact, they're a little backed up here. They've got about 6 or 7 more rulings they have to release, and they're expected to do it by the end of June. So most people suspect that if not this week, then by Monday we should be hearing once and for all whether or not the Supreme Court is going to allow those people who signed up not on a state exchange, but through the federal exchange, signed up for Obamacare, for the Affordable Care Act, whether or not they're going to be able to continue to enjoy, the federally funded subsidies that they are now getting for that insurance coverage. And I have a lot of thoughts on that. And a lot of concerns based on the fact that most people seem to think that the decision is going to come down to either Chief Justice Roberts, who was the one who upheld the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act back when it came before the court a few years ago, for which he has taken no small amount of abuse from his conservative friends on the right. Or some people speculate that perhaps the deciding vote in favor of these federal subsidies may come from Justice Kennedy. And of course it was Kennedy who wrote a scathing dissent against Chief Justice Roberts' approval of the Affordable Care Act last time around. And so, frankly, the most popular video I've ever posted on this channel, my political channel, was a video titled Obamacare, the real reason Republicans hate it. And in that video, I name very specifically what the law does, what it costs, how people can qualify for it. I did this, long before, the initial thing was actually rolled out. And in that video, I mentioned that the real reason Republicans hate this law, why at least conservatives in Congress and in the Senate, elected officials, why those Republicans hate this law, has absolutely nothing with all of the things they claim they're upset about, the individual mandate and this and that. They are and are still upset that this law gets its funding for those subsidies from, well, rich people. By and large, the majority of the money that's raised to pay those federal subsidies to people who sign up for the Affordable Care Act and to pay for the Medicaid coverage for the millions of people that would be eligible. They get it from taxing investment income. And remember, investment income had never been taxed other than a small capital gains tax. They've never had to pay a Medicare tax on their investment income. And also, to a smaller degree, I think it was a 3.8% tax on investments. And also, there was a slight increase, I think it was 0.9% increase on incomes of people earning either over $200,000 of actual earned income, or for married couples filing jointly, it was 0.9% increase in the Medicare tax of incomes over $250,000. So at any rate, these are the real reasons why these conservatives hate the Affordable Care Act. It's because the very rich people in this country, and there are an awful lot of people that are making millions of dollars on investment income, and you know, this is the first time they've actually had to pay anything other than a capital gains tax on that income. And it's a shame, really, when you think about it. 3.8%? Really? So, at any rate, I do have a lot to say on that issue. But I decided that, you know, I had to rush out one more video discussing this whole Confederate flag debate that's been going on now. I posted a video just a few days ago about the shooting in Charleston, and I really gave very short commentary on, you know, the problem of racism in America. I think I made the comment that I really don't know what we can do about it, other than the fact that one small step towards sanity would be to, you know, delegate the Confederate flag to appropriate museums where it belongs. So now, in rapid succession, just in the last few days, we have seen a number of Republicans have to walk a tightrope, because we all know what's been going on really since the early 1960s. For those of you who haven't been following this real closely, the truth is the Confederate flag after the Civil War was pretty much put away. It came back big time in the South, I think beginning in 1962, when the issue of desegregation was beginning to be really federally enforced in the South. And they suddenly, state houses across the South started, you know, flying the Confederate flag. We've seen now in the last couple of days, many of the Republican Party suddenly shift their views, where maybe at first they tried to poo-poo the whole discussion of the Confederate flag, or suggest that you know, that it stood for some type of tradition or heritage, to suddenly now caving in and going along with, or at least open to, the idea that maybe it is time to remove this this flag, at least from state property where it exists. We've seen these discussions now in the state legislature of South Carolina. We've seen that it's being discussed in Mississippi as far as the incorporation of the Confederate emblem on their flag. We've even heard that there are discussions being held regarding the numerous memorials and monuments, schools that have been named, and streets that have been named, all honoring leaders of the Confederacy. And that's all well and good, and we'll have to see what comes of all of this. In fact, I think today I saw where early this morning I noticed that both Walmart and then Sears directed they would no longer sell any merchandise affiliated with symbols of the Confederacy, including the Confederate flag. And I guess for a few hours, what happened in the aftermath of that was that sales of 3 specific versions of the Confederate flag suddenly shot up on Amazon. One by more than 2,000%. I think the others by like 1,800% or 1,600%. Until Amazon decided that they too were going to ban such items, and so on and so on. I think eBay also. So I was beginning to think that, wow, you know, we are actually seeing some small amount of progress here. And then it dawned on me that, you know, I live here in the Midwest, in a small little town, less than 10,000 folks in this town. And I will tell you, you know, not living in the South, we don't see as many Confederate flags. So the ones that you do see do kind of stick out like a sore thumb. At least they always have to me. In fact, when I have come across the few that I see displayed, you know, like on a home or a garage somewhere here in town, or, you know, in the township nearby, they've made such an impression on me, such a negative impression, that I tend to recall with pretty vivid detail exactly, you know, what houses and homes those are. And so I thought it'd be interesting today, given the saturation of this, you know, in the media this past week or so. I decided, despite the fact that it was raining, I got in my car and I decided, you know, I am going to drive all over town and, you know, through most of the township to those locations, and there were about 5 that I could think of offhand, where I remember as recently as a week or 2 ago, you know, proudly displayed, you know, the Confederate flag on their property. And so I went out today to see, you know, if they were still there. And no, not a single one. They were all taken down. And so I came home from that experience thinking, yeah, you know, maybe we have seen, you know, some small modicum of progress. But here's the thing. The thing is that, you know, people that harbor racial attitudes, at least here in this part of the country, don't necessarily, you know, wave it in the form of a flag on their, you know, on their flagpole. They don't necessarily, you know, post it as a, you know, license plate ornament. Most of these folks are a little bit more subtle than that. I still recall when I was serving as editor of my city newspaper, a conversation I had with a former mayor of this town, who used the N-word very casually at the end of a conversation as though I was about to leave his office. And I remember just being so stunned at what I had just heard. And to this day, I don't know that I reacted, you know, the way I should have. I remember coming back, you know, toward him and basically just stating that if I ever heard him use that word again in my presence, in a similar context, that it would find its way to print. So after seeing all of this, like I say, small little success of sorts, I was kind of brought back to earth after kind of going through my Twitter feed. Now on my Twitter feed, a lot of people will post links. You know, they'll post a comment with a link to something they've came across in, you know, in the media. And so there were a number of them. You know what I'm talking about. I saw some links to something a Fox News radio personality had posted, and so somebody had written a comment, you know, based on this article. There was another article that was posted on Breitbart.com that was linked with a comment to my Twitter feed. And so I took a few moments really today to go to those actual sites and to read those articles and then I thought more tellingly to read the comments below those articles on those sites. And I'm here to tell you, as if we couldn't have figured this out, racism is alive and well and still being pathetically defended by trying to disguise both what the Confederacy was and what it stood for, and what many of these politicians have done in, over the course of the last number of years. You still see a lot of Republicans making asinine arguments. For instance, rather than acknowledge that the Confederacy was formed on the basis of one thing and one thing alone, and that was the preservation of the institution of slavery. There can be no doubt about that. The very declarations of secession of the first 7 states that seceded from the Union, make it crystal clear, in writing, that that's what they were all about. You can go much deeper. You can look at any of the heroes of the Confederacy, whether it be their president Jefferson Davis, whether it be their vice president Stevens, whether it be really the founder of the whole Confederacy movement, who died actually years before the Civil War, John C. Calhoun, if you will. If you read any of their writings, they make no bones about how they feel about the inferiority, as they put it, of the black race, the economic engine of the South due to slavery. And so when Southerners defend the flag, or defend, some type of tradition or culture or heritage of that flag, we can make no bones about what they are referring to. A lot of them will use terms like states' rights. But specifically, what they don't want to mention is what they were really talking about was their individual states' right to perpetuate slavery. You also hear them sound off about, if we're going to get rid of everything that offends us, let's get rid of the NAACP, let's get rid of the BET network, let's get rid of... Seriously, these are the arguments you hear. And to which my reply would be, yeah, when the NAACP and the BET network are responsible for kidnapping and enslaving, millions of men and enslaving them without wages, then probably we should probably do the same with them as well. However, as I was reading through all these comments, what became crystal clear to me was that, just like gun nuts, you can't argue with people who are racist. There is no argument they will listen to. They will instead, many of them are clearly uneducated. Many of them are. They will suggest, if you point out the facts of the actual Confederacy, the basis for which it was formed, they will accuse you of, many people will accuse you of revisionist history. It is truly amazing. So anyway, it's an indication of just how far we have to go. I think there is one other argument I kept seeing posted, by folks, and that is that you know, they often will say things like, well, now they're telling us we can't teach our history, and to that I wholeheartedly disagree. The truth is, I wholeheartedly endorse the idea of accurately and as completely as possible educating our youth on our history. There is a big difference, however, between teaching history and honoring it. Anyway, that's it for me for today. I thank you for watching, and I really do hope I'll be able to get something up on the Affordable Care Act case before the Supreme Court, hopefully before they actually rule on it, because I kind of have my own ideas of how that vote will go. But either way, I will post something on it, either before they rule or after, most likely on Saturday. Take care of one another. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you later.